Let's have some fun today. Let's play a little bit with ChatGPT and let's see what it gives us in terms of information on visas. So what I've done here is I put into ChatGPT, what is the easiest US visa to obtain even under Trump? And it gives me a list. Let's go down that list and let's talk about it because it's going to be very interesting. Let's do really quickly the list of what they tell us. So they say the B1, B2 visitor visa is one of the easiest ones to get. And then there's the visa waiver, which isn't a visa. You don't have to get a visa, so I don't even know why it's in the list. That's what all of my clients call the ESTA. And then it goes on to say that the easier non-immigrant visa options are L1 intracompany transferee, E2 investor, Q1 cultural exchange, and then they talk about other visas such as the H1B and the EB5 / the Trump Gold Card. Let's break it down. Let's see what this is all about. A B1, B2 visitor visa, is it easy to get? Well, the answer is not so clear-cut, and it is certainly not the easiest visa to get. The easiest way to gain entry into the United States, of course, is if you don't need a visa. So that would be the ESTA. And there is a list of about 41 countries who do not require, for whom a visa is not required, unless, of course, there are complicating factors. And let's go into those complicating factors in just a bit. But let's go back to the B1, B2 visa. When you go and apply for a B1, B2 visa, which is a tourist visa, if all the stars align, yes, it's a fairly easy visa to obtain. But it's not always that easy because there are many countries for whom they will not give a B1, B2 visa easily. Well, why is that? Because attached to the B1, B2 visa is something called non-immigrant intent. If you apply for a B1, B2 visa, you have to convince the consulate that you do not have the intent to remain permanently in the United States of America. And what does that mean to the consulate? The consulate looks at your ties to your home country. Do you have a good job? Do you have a car? Do you have family? Are you married? Are you a single male or female of marriage and working age? All of these factors go into play. And then they look at whether you have had a clean criminal record. Have you done something that would disqualify you from coming in? So, in essence, the B1, B2 visa is probably the most common and the easiest one to get. But it is not a walk in the park. It is not that easy to obtain. Let's go on to the visa waiver program. The visa waiver program is probably the easiest way to gain entry into the United States. Great. It works if you are a citizen of one of the qualifying countries. Wonderful. It saves you from a lot of paperwork, a lot of interviewing, a lot of proving to the consulate that you don't intend to stay permanently. But have you ever noticed? You sign off on a lot of your rights when you come in on a visa waiver. So it's very easy for the United States to remove you from the country if you have a legal problem within the United States. They don't have to necessarily send you to immigration court. They can just remove you from the country, except for some limited circumstances if your life were to be in danger or were you to be returned to your home country. So also, you need to understand that under the visa waiver program, you get 90 days. That's it. You cannot extend those 90 days. You have to leave the country again. And that is very, very important. And under the visa waiver program, if you stay unlawfully in the United States by so much as 1 day, you can never use the visa waiver program again. So there are strings attached to the visa waiver program that you need to be aware of. Now let's talk about these ChatGPT easier non-immigrant visa options. Okay, L1 intracompany transferee. That may be an easier option if you are working for a Fortune 500 company with thousands of employees that has a great relationship with the USCIS and has a track record of bringing people into the United States. Yes, that can be an easier visa. But if you are an entrepreneur and trying to establish a new company in the United States, which has a relationship with your company abroad, that can be quite a challenge because the USCIS is trying to ferret out fraud. So you may have to send volumes and volumes and volumes of documents to prove that you are truly going to qualify for the L visa, intracompany transferee, for the L visa intracompany transferee. Hence, it's not always that easy to get an L1 visa. E2 treaty trader or investor visa. That is probably one of the easier ones to obtain if you have the cash, because you have to have a certain amount of capital and you have to be a citizen of one of the qualifying countries that has a treaty of commerce with the United States. So if you have the money to invest and you're lucky enough to have been born in one of the qualifying countries, that is actually one of the easier visas to obtain. Why is that? Well, for a couple reasons. Number one, the United States loves investors who are going to come to this country and who are going to create jobs. So there is a certain favorability factor to this visa. And the second reason is this visa is created by treaty. Just a little bit of background. The supreme law of the United States, the supreme law of the land, is the Constitution and treaties. So it is not easy for the United States Congress to get rid of the E2 visa because it is considered to be part of the supreme law of the land if there's a treaty between two countries. Therefore, it is a little bit more insulated from the political vicissitudes of a new administration. Therefore, the e-visa is a great option if you have money and you are from a qualifying country. And that list can be easily obtained on the internet. Q1 cultural exchange visa, yes, it is an easier visa to get if you work for a company that requires your services. This type of visa used to be called the Disney visa. Why? Because when you go to Epcot, for example, Epcot Center at Disney, you see all these pavilions with Chinese people, French people, Moroccan people. They typically are on a Q1 exchange. And the reason they do that is because they want authenticity in these various pavilions. And they call that the Disney visa. So yes, if you happen to be working for an entity that is big enough and requires your services, a Q1 visa may be a good option. How about permanent residency? Because that seems to be what people are really, really interested in. They want to come here and live permanently in the United States. So let's talk about getting permanent residency. By far, the easiest way to obtain permanent residency is by marrying an American citizen. But that's not really an option for you if you're already married or you're not of marriage age or if you just don't want to get married. Also, because it is an easier visa to obtain, it is also one where they screen for fraud a lot more. Rightfully so. But also understand that if a person is caught committing marriage fraud, they will never ever be eligible for a visa in the United States ever again. So it's not something to be trifled with. Another visa that I would say is very easy or easier is an EB-5. If you have the money and you have the ability to show where that money came from and you invest a certain amount of money into the United States, you can be given an EB-5 visa and become a permanent resident. Now, ChatGPT is talking about the Trump Gold Card. If you invest a certain amount of money, I don't even remember what the figure is. I think it's 5 million in the United States. You have a ticket to get into the United States. Well, that visa does not exist in the statute. And so Trump has started apparently to get a list of people that may be interested in it, but he is really not entitled or empowered to do the Trump Gold Card at this point in time. But that doesn't mean he's not going to try to do it. So what is the moral of the story? What is the lesson that we're learning? ChatGPT is great. It will give you ideas, it will give you information, but it doesn't have details and nuance that is necessarily correct in telling you what your approach needs to be. Because everybody's approach is essentially tailor-made to them. You can ask somebody how they got their green card, but maybe they got their green card the way they told you, but that may not apply to you, either because you do not have the same factors and objective circumstances that the person has, or because the law has simply changed. Look, talk to ChatGPT, find things out, but understand ChatGPT is not an expert. It can give you information, but it doesn't give you nuance, and it doesn't apply things and the facts and the law to your circumstances. If you'd like more information and the opinion of a professional, click on the link below. Contact us. We'll do our best to get back to you with the information that you desire, and we're here to serve you. All the best. God bless.